I figured it out just in time. How crazy is that?
That's an epic countdown. Oh, you got your camera working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed different angle. Yeah, you're looking slick. Now you just make my frame look like super blurry and out of focus, but that's great, man.
I need to position myself here. I haven't set this up in so long. So lucky to be here with you. But yeah, I'm laughing because it was counting down 3, 2, 1, and as it says 0, I sat down and everything worked. How beautiful!
Well done.
Synchronicity. Nice to have you here, my friend.
Geez, I feel like it's been a long time coming, hey?
It is. It has been. It's been mad. We're going to do a little bit of an introduction. I feel like very low here. I need to fix my camera angle a little bit. For those tuning in, if you are with us live, just give us a heads up. Maybe just drop a comment, your name, where you're from. If you've got any questions, marketing and business questions, we would happily try our best to answer that for you and try and give you as much value as possible. My name is Yandre, and I've got my good friend Jono here with me. Jono, welcome to the party.
I'm very excited to be here. Thanks, Yandre. Yeah.
Cool, man. I think, Jono, do a quick introduction, maybe just a little bit on our journey, how we met. Not too long, just 30, 60 seconds, because that's going to give me enough time to adjust my camera angle.
Right.
I'll be back in a second. Cool. And then if you guys have any business questions, drop it in the comments, and we will happily try and answer that for you. Today's topic that we thought might be a good thing to discuss is the biggest mistakes that business owners make that are under 300k a month in revenue. So those business owners, they have a specific, most of them have a specific mental model. So we can talk a little bit about that and how mentality and mindset and just your perception around business is potentially creating some friction for you. And then also just the more practical advice, the practical tips on things that, you just don't know. Just ignorance is bliss. And hopefully we're here to shed some light on potential issues that you might have in the business and how to fix it. Cool. Jono, quick intro. I'm going to adjust my camera and I'll be back in a sec.
Cool. Jono Proudfoot, that's my name. And I met Yandre 3 years ago. I actually had a business called Real Meal Revolution. For those of you who might remember the Banting diet that came out in that big red book, the Tim Noakes diet that came out in 2013. I actually wrote that book with Tim Noakes, and off the back of that launched an online business selling coaching programs, online courses, and obviously was a runaway success in the beginning years, and then sort of needed a lot of sales and marketing support as it got mature, because just like any eating movement goes, it starts to phase out. So I employed the services of V8, and Yandre and I got to know each other very well while he helped grow my business. We had tremendous success with the strategy that Yandre and his team put together, which unfortunately backfired when everyone stopped coming to webinars and lockdown ended. No one wanted to sit on their screens anymore, and then at the same time we had load shedding, and so even during webinars people couldn't tune into our webinars. And up until then, the strategy that we developed was absolutely dominating. And Yandre and I have stayed in touch. We were always talking about different models, mental models, business models, marketing ideas. I'm super interested in what Yandre is doing. And I'd like to think Yandre is interested in what I'm up to. And that's why we're here. We love talking business. And I think he and I both have a passion for sharing our I wouldn't say knowledge, but certainly some of our most expensive mistakes, knowledge and wisdom with other entrepreneurs. It's a super fun thing to do.
Yeah, man. Thanks for that intro. I think I'm back visually. Can everybody see me nicely? I think I look good, if I have to say so much.
Looking great.
Appreciate that. It's just been a bit rusty, man. But it's so nice to have you on the show. And I think from my side, I would love to do this consistently with you, my friend. I think we met in Cape Town last week and it was great. And I think there's so much value and insight that we could potentially share. And there's a lot of people who might, just enjoy the conversations that we about to have. I would love to do this on a weekly basis. I always say that this is going to be the third time lucky. And this time around, I've brought on Jono to keep us accountable. So like my life is a bit chaotic, and I try and find order within the chaos. And I think the best thing sometimes to do is to partner up with someone to hold you accountable. Jono, those are my exact words to you. It's like this. Let's do this. Let's do this regularly. Let's try and keep it consistent. And it's your job to hold me accountable. So if we don't do this on a Thursday, then it's 99% my fault. But we need to make sure that it happens. So cool. I think we've got some regulars actually. Armando, nice to have you here. Always here, he says. Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. Again, if you guys have any questions, just drop it in the comments. We'll get to it. Looking forward to today's show. Your green bean, Elsie Green from Benoni. Nice, Elsa. Nice to have you here. Thanks for joining. And then we have Arthur Durban here to learn. Great, Arthur. I think you're at the right place. And if you're not, you're welcome to leave anytime and just give us some constructive criticism if you're not finding anything valuable. Then from my side, Jono, where do we start, when it comes to topic of today? Like
I've got my starting angle. So I was hoping you would ask that.
Yeah, I think maybe kick it off for us. If you want, I'll chime in. But from my side, the topic for today, guys, if you're joining, is biggest mistakes that business owners or founders make that's doing under 300k a month in revenue. I think this is a great topic. That's where I live. I live in the 3 million to 20 million a year space when it comes to helping businesses. So I just love this. I'm just completely obsessed with I call it like level 2 to 4. So when you level 0 to 1 or 2, that's almost like when you're doing like 50k a month, 100k a month, finding product market fit, just seeing if there's any traction. That's level 0 to like 1, 2. And then level 2 to 4, level 2 to 5, in my opinion, that's anything between like 5 million a year to like 20 million a year. And then level 5 and to 10 is that's obviously up to close to 200 million a year plus. So I think with that said, we're talking about founders who have a product market fit. They've got people interested in the product or service. They're getting sales, they're getting revenue, but then it's that bottleneck effect. That things are just holding you back from scaling. So, Jono, please maybe just kick it off with some of your perspectives. We can start with whatever the first thing is that comes to mind.
Yeah, it's interesting when you define it like that. Then maybe my opener is slightly different. I was going to actually go back to partnership, and I was chatting to a mate about this today, and how people often start a business out of like two mates who have an idea together and end up starting a business, and that's often a recipe for disaster because you end up feuding with your best mate and obviously end up usually losing a business partner if the partnership wasn't necessary. But we can talk about that at a later stage. I think that 300,000 rand a month space is the time where we should be focusing in. And like you said, you're iterating up to about 100k. When you're getting to 300k, you're usually at a breaking point where you spread thin. And a lot of entrepreneurs have this dream, like I did, looking at Richard Branson, he's got 200 businesses, and we want to do all these different businesses because it's fun to have lots of businesses and to service lots of clients and to say yes and to feel like, you're stretched, but you're busy and it's exciting because you're making money. And I think the easiest thing to do is to say yes to people and then break your back servicing them. And so I reckon the biggest mistake people can make at that point is to keep doing that. I think what the focus should be at that point is to start getting good at saying no.
Yeah, like I had shiny object syndrome as an entrepreneur, I'm not going to lie, especially in my early 20s. I think from my point of view, it's when I look at my background, I mean, I grew up in a normal household. I mean, we were, I would say, qualified as affluent in a way because we went on 3 holidays a year, if not more, and we always had food on the table. But I mean, business and my understanding and perception around money and business was always, it's hard and it's rare. And if you have an opportunity, hold on to it and work on it and do your best to make it happen. And I think that kind of mentality is a good thing because you make the most of what you've got. But also when opportunities do come your way, you want to say yes to everything because you do have the subtle underlying lack mentality that if I don't say yes to this, I'm going to miss out on something huge. And I think you make such a good point. A lot of business owners get shiny object syndrome when it comes to their business. And the more they draw attention to themselves as successful entrepreneurs, and the more the business gets attention, the more other opportunities arise. And then you actually get handicapped with opportunity. And it's like you want to say yes to everything because you don't want to miss out on opportunity. And you never know when something you say yes to could be the next $1 million thing. But at the same time, it's having confidence in choosing the thing that's actually moving the needle at the moment and saying, this is what's moving the needle for me. This is what's making the most amount of impact. I'm going to say no to these other things. And I had to rewire my operating system mentally to go, if this opportunity, if I say no to this opportunity, it is okay. I believe and I have faith that the other opportunities will be there when I have the mental bandwidth and the physical bandwidth to actually capitalize on it.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Like, that's how I had to rewire my mind. I was like, I'm going to say yes to what's moving the needle and make sure that I pay attention to that. All the other things, if it can't be something bigger or better than what I'm building now in the next 6 to 12 months, then why say yes to it? Why not just focus on what you're doing already? So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I got a few anecdotes to share there. Actually, I like telling stories. It's tangible, and maybe some of the guys watching can relate. But we had a very successful online course, and just to give you an idea, at that stage in the banting movement, there was very little ad spend needed to sell this course because of how hot banting was. Our cost per acquisition, or at least our ROAS, was probably like 15 or more, and it was a highly profitable course. The GP was, I think, 80%, and we had all this gross profit coming in every month. And because I had the shiny object syndrome, I decided, okay, well, I want to build this banting or weight loss empire. And so I took all of that gross profit and put it into developing a new book, where I could have just written the manuscript and given it to a publisher who would then take the risk on photography and design and put out the capital to get the print runs printed, because to print, it's expensive and you've got to ship books from China, etc. And so I said, no, well, we're going to self-publish this book, which was like going to cost us $1.5 million or whatever to get off the ground. And then we also wanted to support people on weight loss journeys. So we developed a coaching program and then we developed a coach training program. So we trained coaches on how to deliver this program. And then we built a tech platform that the coaches could use to manage their clients through. So now we had this one product, which was highly profitable, and all of the gross profit from that product was going into book publishing, coach management, and training, et cetera, et cetera. And so what ended up happening was we had this high staff overhead because we needed people to run the online platform. We needed people to train and manage the coaches. We needed people to kind of deliver on the original online course, and then obviously people to do sales, marketing, accounting, et cetera. And we were just eating GP. And so even though we had all these products, the other products, apart from that online course, weren't really generating a lot of profit. They were generating revenue, but they were basically just washing their own faces. And sometimes that original online course was subsidizing the life of all of these other products and paying the salaries of these staff who were supporting the product. So we ended up actually not making any profit. And there was lots of profits, lots of profit we made. So for me, the other mistake that we make is not paying attention to what is actually most profitable. It's very tempting to add other products in there. But my mentor used to say, know the game you are playing and play where you can win. And I think the dichotomy for most entrepreneurs is that we're passionate people and we want to do what we want to do. That's why we work for ourselves. We don't have a boss. And we want to be in a space that we love working in. And often the customer wants something that's probably slightly different to what you would absolutely love to do. There's even sometimes there's like an 80% gap, and sometimes there's only like a 10% variance. But it's very rare that a customer will want exactly the thing that you want, how you want to sell it, and how you want to make it. And so we end up going down this path of doing all these things that we think will be cool, that we like, instead of paying attention to the data that's coming back from the customers and your finances.
Back into marketing in order to scale further and quicker, right? Like, I think that's one thing I've seen is that the moment you start to make some profit, people go, oh, we can take like just what you said, like we can do this, we can do that. And that's horizontal. You're building leverage horizontally, right? But one thing I've learned is like every single other idea requires resources, requires bandwidth, requires focus, requires someone to spearhead it. Like, we will be very naive in my younger years to think that you're just going to have this side hustle that just becomes this behemoth overnight. You need to put the time and energy into it. Someone has to, if it's not going to be you. And if you're not going to do it, you're going to have to pay someone to do it. So I think we've got a fragrance business, right, called Sentimental. And that business has gone literally on to do, we're projected to do about 70 million this year. And someone asked me the other day, is like, what is the key element of success? And I was like, well, the universe, first of all. I think it's just, just grateful that the stars aligned the way that they did. However, one thing that I can compliment us as a team on, if I have to reflect back on this journey, is that we've been so focused on just selling one thing really well, and that's fragrances. Like, we've tried some other things like diffusers and creams, and all of them do to some extent well. And at the same time, that business, because of the profit it makes, you can imagine what kind of other opportunities we are starting to, look at or find ourselves in. And every time we go back to what we're doing well, back to what's moving the needle, back to the 20-80 principle. And I think that's one of the things I can say, I can vouch for now, that I can objectively see the result of it. Because when someone says to you, hey, I've been in your shoes, don't have shiny object syndrome, focus on what moves the needle, focus on the twin, you go, yeah, thanks. But when you can actually objectively, tangibly see it in your own business, you're going, oh shit, all these people were right all along. And now there's someone listening to this who's going, yeah. And then 2 years from now, they're most likely going to join the show and it's like, 2 years ago, I joined your show and the biggest lesson I learned the hard way was this.
I mean, the 80-20, I'd love to talk more about that 80-20 and like how you discover what that 80-20 is. In fact, I had another massive fail that I think I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs talk about. But do you want to talk about 80-20 for a bit before we
I think let's touch on that. I feel it's a great segue. I think a lot of people spend 80% of their time on things that make 20% of the revenue or profit. And the only reason they do that is because they don't looking at the data. There's nothing that's actually measurable or trackable that's indicating that they're spending their time on the wrong things. So their brains are programmed to stay busy because busy means productive. And when you're productive, you put your head on a pillow feeling good about yourself. But meanwhile, the business hasn't grown. So 6 months later, you wake up and you go, geez, like, what have I been doing for the last 6 months? I feel productive. I feel like everything is fine and great. But meanwhile, the bank balance is the same or profits are less. So it's because you most likely are not applying what you would like to call the 20-80 principle. And it probably boils down to data and measurability. I don't know what your take is on that.
Yeah, I think I'm like 100% agree with you. I think the toughest thing is for an entrepreneur to do, and I feel this myself. I mean, for those of you who don't know, I'm in the process of starting a media company. I have a content marketing business, and it's the same thing. Having exited, everyone thinks that when an entrepreneur exits, they all of a sudden know everything and they know the rules of business. But when you start your next one, it's exactly the same. It's iteration. And I think the challenge is knowing what, knowing the game you're playing and playing where you can win, like knowing what is that 80, what is the 20% effort that I can put in that's going to make 80% of the difference. And so that product market fit thing is a serious challenge to understand, like, what is it that that I can do. Like, I actually had it written down on my monitor at the top for a long time. I was like, what is the highest leverage that you can get per second of time at work? Because we do stuff that is not that someone else can do. That's one of entrepreneurs' biggest failings, because we like to stay comfortable. It's scary being an entrepreneur, so we'll do like mundane stuff because we know that we can nail it. So what is something that absolutely no one else can do in your business, and that will move the needle, and not just move the needle, but move the needle further than anything else you could move the needle? And most of the time, we don't do that thing because it's probably the scariest thing that you have to do. It's like picking up the phone and getting really vulnerable with a friend or someone who you've worked with in a previous job, and trying to make a sale, or trying to get feedback. And getting feedback is also soul destroying. You've just put your whole heart out there and you've produced work for a client or something, and you know it's subpar and you know why, but you need to get it from the horse's mouth, and you have to go back and say, listen, I know that we just did that and you told me it was great, but lay it on thick. Tell me everything. Tell me everything that sucked. There's nothing comfortable about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
100%, man. It's and I think the more feedback you can get, the better, right? I think we shouldn't be too emotional about these things, and that's going to segue into the next thing, which is just being emotional as a business owner too. It's an roller coaster. We've got R Home saying, love the interview with Old School and Field Bar and Lighthouse. Really appreciate that. Means the world to me. I do try and get better at my craft. Man, like I think this is also where constructive criticism comes in. So if anybody is open to sharing on how we can improve our live performance and our offline interviews, etc., would really appreciate that. Then
I love those interviews as well, by the way.
I appreciate that,
really
good.
Yeah.
The problem with those interviews is like it's only like 20 minutes. Like I only had like 20 minutes per interview. I would have loved to maybe do like a long form, and we will at some point. Eco Nappy here, client of ours. Hey, nice to see you guys. Thanks so much for the love and the support. If there is anybody who's got any questions, just drop it in the chat. Marketing and business questions. We'd love to answer it for you. If you want to squeeze out some value, be vulnerable, be open. There is the value that you extract from the show is completely up to you. That's really what it boils down to. You have actual direct line of communication to ask a question and have it answered by one of us, and we'll happily do that for you. So
I'll plant some seeds there if you want. So for those of you who don't know, I mean, I chatted to Yandre about this extensively, and I've been in many lawsuits, founders lawsuits and supplier contract lawsuits, and mainly because when you're involved in a national movement, there's a lot of money at play and people take things very seriously and it gets very intense. So one of my favorite things to talk about is, as you might have heard earlier, it's the partnership relationships, conflict in business. And I've obviously become like a pro at diffusing conflict, but it didn't start out like that. So questions about, when your partner is not pulling weight, or how to handle, it's sensitive staff situations and all that kind of stuff. There's a wealth of information that I can add there. And Yandre is obviously a pro as well. So if you need it, if you had a question in that area, throw it down and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, cool, man. I think we're definitely going to touch on that. And getting back to, we spoke about focus, shiny object syndrome. We spoke about the 80-20 principle and just focusing on what moves the needle. And I think we just touched on, getting emotional about your business. I think one of the things that I'm passionate about is, the reason I'm passionate about it is because I saw what a big difference it made in my business and the people I work with when I started realizing how to control my own level of thinking, which then transpires into emotion. A lot of business owners out there, it's tough. So the journey of entrepreneurship is an emotional roller coaster. However, you have to learn how to get into the middle of the chaos, the eye of the storm, if you will, because within the eye of the storm, I feel like there is levels of peace and tranquility, even though everything around you might be falling apart or just might be moving at 1,000,000 miles a minute. It's understanding that you, as the head of the business, the leader, the captain, you can't lose your cool and you can't start making random emotional decisions. Your number one job as a founder is to make great decisions and to lead the team through the chaotic environment you might find yourself in. And if you cannot control your own emotions, you are going to create so much more noise, not only for yourself, but for your team as well. And that creates unnecessary pressure, unnecessary anxieties, unnecessary levels of stress and friction, morale dips, culture gets contaminated. And before you know it, good people leave and you play the victim and go, why does this always happen to me? Because you can't control your fucking emotions. That's why. Sorry. Because I'm just very passionate about this, as you can tell.
Yeah, I mean, totally. What are some of the strategies that you use?
That's literally the first lesson I had to learn. And my life changed the moment I figured that out.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was, I remember this day when I was in the heat of lawsuits. Actually, I'd taken out a lease on a property that was way too big for what I needed. And I was, I think I just landed in the red for the very first time. And I remember just sitting there so angry. And a mentor said to me, you need to investigate stoicism. And I'd never heard of it before. And I said, what do you mean? And he's like, you've got to find a way to be grateful for this pain. And I mean, that was his definition of it. And I looked at him and he's like, instead of blaming and being angry with it, you take it humbly and you internalize it and you think about like why this has happened. And you, instead of looking for reasons to blame other people, look with everything you've got, search for parts of this that you can take ownership for. And then that started me on a journey, and I started reading Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy. And it was just a total shift of mindset. So whenever bad stuff happens, it's like you get to separate your story from the facts, which is a very powerful tool, separating story from fact. This is what happened versus like, this is my story about it. They were spiteful. No, that just happened. And then how to own everything and not be reactive and just say, cool, I got teased or someone said a mean thing about me in the press. That's just happened. I'm going to go back to work and do my job instead of like, and like having a big hissy fit. And that's hard. But the good news, which I experienced, is that the more you practice, the better it gets. And you can get to a point, which I think we mentioned the other day, called unfuckable with or unmessable with. That was the tool that saved me.
Yeah, you know what it is, right? Is that I had a mentor when we were struggling to grow. It was 2020, COVID hit. A lot of things didn't go the way obviously we wanted it to. And I got a really cool, awesome mentor. He was actually younger than me, but he's done a lot more than me at the time, and he's been through these journeys. And he said one thing that still sits with me today, and we believe this is a team now. The whole Exco team that we have in the V8 group believes in this philosophy and perspective, and that is that if shit hits the fan, if something goes wrong in the business, if there's a fire or an issue or a challenge, what you should understand is that it is the business trying to communicate with you, trying to tell you where it has pain. It's almost like going to the doctor because you're sick and you need to get diagnosed because you don't know what's wrong. And the doctor goes, this. Okay, cool. Well, you have potentially a lung infection. And I feel, in a way, the business is the doctor itself. It is the body that's in pain, but it's also the doctor. And it is diagnosing itself, and it's giving you a report on where the issues are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's telling you have a client communication problem because you've had, I don't know, hypothetically, 3 clients complain that staff members are not getting back to them in time. Or you had 10 complaints in the last month about the product quality and people want refunds. You can get upset about people's mentality going, oh, everybody wants everything for free and they're taking chances and this, or you can shut up and go, hey, maybe my product needs to be improved and maybe the quality is not that great and maybe I should be less romantic and biased about what I'm putting out and take some knocks to the chin and just improve so that I can actually build a business that has an acceptable return rate.
I mean, so one of my experiences working with V8, actually, this isn't an advertorial, by the way. Yandre is not paying me that much to be here. No, I'm just joking. But one of the things I remember telling my mates about when I came on board was how well you managed expectations. And I think it was the team. They just said, look, we can only start this part of the process once when we've got all your logins. And so I said, like, how long until we live? And you said, well, our target is a month, but only if all of these things are in place. And we need to get all of the information and you need to fill in this form. It wasn't like a random handover. It was like, we need every single thing in this thing. And after that, then we can get your logins. And after that, then we will produce a strategy. And depending on how fast you sign off and how fast this happens, then we can go live. And even then you said, this might take up to 6 months to show results because we need to iterate and learn. And so other agencies would have said, we'll turn it all around in 2 months. And you gave me the
tomorrow and you go to buy your Lambo next year this time.
But you basically gave me the worst possible outcome so that you could only under promise and only deliver, which was super impressive. But I wanted to add, I wanted to add to what you were saying is like the way I always saw it was that my business was a very powerful personal development tool because everything that was wrong with the business was actually usually highlighting a flaw in myself as a human being. So the like spreading over all of these products was just the fact that like I have insane ADD and wanted to do everything and couldn't focus. We had a communication thing as well, like you said, and actually it turns out that like I was a really inconsistent communicator, and so clients never knew what the hell was going on, and my staff never knew what the hell was going on. And then I spoke to my wife about it, and I said, like, no one knows what the hell is going on. Like, what the hell is going on here? And she said to me, yeah, dude, you're really bad at actually being transparent and communicating. Everyone always asks you, and they shouldn't have to. You're leading, and you should be telling everyone. And then I thought about that outside of work, and Kate said to me, it's the same outside of work. Like, that's how you are. Wow. And so often looking at your business is actually like looking in the mirror, because you have to change internally, like you were saying earlier, to really change what's going on in your business.
If you become better with your own personal development as a human being, and you just become a better person, more patient, more open-minded, more responsive to feedback, not overly emotional, in control of your emotions, all of that will reflect in your business. I think what people don't understand is that when you between 1 million and 10 million a year, the business is 100% you. Almost, right? It's like how you think and how you act and how you behave affects the business 99.9%. When you've got 50 people, it becomes 80%, 70%, 60%, 50% as you grow. And then obviously it's more, if you're a CEO of a big company, then it's obviously still important, but your emotional outbursts and whatever is only going to affect the HODs and your exec team around you. It's not going to affect the whole company. So in essence, becomes less of a reflection of you and more of a reflection of everybody in the business. But when you're in the 0 to 1 million a month space, the business is 100% you. So the best possible thing that you can do is just focus on yourself and improving yourself, because that will pay dividends down the line, I would like to believe. Jono, we've actually got a cool question here for you. It says, you spoke about marketing your course earlier. Any golden nuggets you can share on running ads or website content that really moved the needle during this time outside of webinars? I assume you did. So you're saying just outside of the webinars that you did.
Outside of webinars, yeah. I mean, I'll lean on you for the ad stuff because that's your game. I found email to be a very very effective sales tool. Definitely lowered the cost per acquisition a lot. So you know, when you're selling courses, you have to. It's an interesting line because you got to sell enough content to make yourself look legit without giving away the content that's in the course, unless the outcome of the course is what people are buying. So, for example, there are these guys who sell this course called the 14-day filmmaker. You can go check them out on contentcreator.com. Like, to me, they sell the best course offering out there in terms of low budget course that gives a lot of value, but that's only the beginning of their funnel. So I think before we're talking about ad spend and stuff, the business model is really important. I heard a lot of people who have a business and they say, no, I'm going to start an online course and I'm going to make money with the online course. But actually, the online course business has tiers to it. And it's really important that you have the full strategy in mind for a profitable online course before launching your first one. And how you'll know this, Yandre, you follow a lot of the same people, and so you get what you call I mean, in food it's called a loss leader. What's it called? A tripwire or like a break-even offer, essentially, where you sell.
We call it a self-liquidating offer.
Self-liquidating, yeah. So that's like a course, but under 1,000 Rand. And that's the kind of course where you can pump a lot of ad spend into selling it, and you know that you're going to make like a little bit of profit back, or at least get break even on that sale. And that gets someone invested into your ecosystem. And typically through that course, you want to give them an introduction to your universe, but you're actually using that course to sell them your higher ticket offers. So if you sell like a premium course that's supported or a one-on-one coaching program, and you make your money on the premium offers. And if you have that in mind and you have the whole strategy built out, then you're not too worried about making a profit, like a big profit off that course. So does that?
Sorry, no.
Yeah.
Finish.
So for a weight loss business, it's quite obvious. We have an app which is on a low tier subscription at like 95 Rand a month. Then we sold our course for 600 Rand, and that course was quite valuable, very compelling offer, lose X kilos in X weeks, etc. And we were always selling the outcome. Never sell like a course based on how many hours. They want to do as little work as possible and get as many results. So those guys from the 14-day filmmaker, they're promising you will be a filmmaker in 14 days, which is insane. And that people will buy that for whatever price. But basically, the 600 Rand course got them into the funnel. And then through course content and email, we upsold them onto a group support program and a high ticket coaching program. And then the next tier up, which we stopped doing, was a certification. And the certification in South Africa, I don't know, Yandre, what it goes for, but in the States, it could be anything from $8,000 to $10,000.
Yeah, I think some comments or it's just perspectives from my side is that one thing a coach, if you're selling a course, the one thing you should understand, unless it's accredited, unless you're an entity or a university, obviously, but if you're selling a course, knowledge, skills, whatever it may be, then you need to understand people don't buy the information as much as they actually buy you, if that makes sense. So it's almost like a personal trainer. If people, I don't know if they do this today, like I was a personal trainer back in 2010, 11 of my journey. And I can't speak for personal trainers today, but this was how it was like when I was a personal trainer. Someone would look and go, who looks the best? And I want to train with that guy. And they start to believe in you because of who you are. And then they make the assumption that if you look that way and you are that way, you have information that you can share with me that can help me be that way. And one thing I've learned is that people buy from people And in courses, it's even more so. It's like the one product where people care about who the coach actually is versus what information he's actually selling. And I think that's one thing a lot of coaches in South Africa get wrong, is that they don't put themselves out there so that people can be almost like inspired by them to go, hey, that guy is saying everything that resonates with me. I can follow his journey. I can see that he's authentic. I can see that he knows what he's talking about and he's knowledgeable. I don't know exactly what's in his course, but I am now more likely to buy his course because of him as a human being and what he's representing, as opposed to with the information that he's actually sharing. And I think that's the one thing, is coaches need to put themselves out there, and they need to be verbal, and they need to be as loud as possible in the right framework, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're usually behind the scenes. They usually have a random logo that no one cares about. They have a normal website with 1 or 2 pictures of them. And then they go, I'm going to sell you all this cool information. And people go, oh, well, that's great. But who are you? And how did you get to this information? Like, how do I know this information is actually going to get to the outcome of what I wanted? This is what you were saying, is selling the outcome at the end of the day. So that's one perspective I have for sure.
Yeah, I mean, to talk to that, I have worked with a lot of coaches. My coach, who I actually got coaching from, she's been coaching me since I was about 25, and I'm 40 now. So we've had a long journey together. She is the most phenomenal coach. I think she's got over 7,000 hours, logged hours of coaching. She's very experienced. And then I had like almost no hours of coaching, and I decided to do what I do as a content marketer, and I launched my coaching practice as a side hustle. And in 2 months of just posting videos online, I racked up 50,000 Rand a month side hustle coaching practice. And I literally didn't spend 1 cent on advertising for that business. It was like hitting my sending some newsletters to my people and posting on LinkedIn and Instagram. I think I posted every day or every second day, just like a selfie video with some insights. And you'd be surprised how many people in your network, if you add value to them, if you say one thing that they find interesting, all of a sudden that changes their perception, and they're like, wow, I thought Jono was a chef and into real meal, but that was actually really interesting information. And I had people who were way out of my league. Business people who I'd met through friends came and asked me if I could coach them. These big CEOs, and so I said, yeah, sure, I'll coach you. And absolutely terrified all the way through until realizing that actually you can add value. So yeah, I think getting yourself out there is hard, but it's so necessary. And all that to say that coach who was coaching me, she still to this day goes through months where she doesn't get work. And like I said, she's the best coach I've ever worked with. Yeah, and she's not telling anyone, and that's why she doesn't get work.
Yeah, you only know it when you start experiencing, her work, and you need to give people the experience before they actually buy. And I think you have to put yourself out there in order to make that happen. The other perspective, is obviously putting yourself out there, and you can do that through ads. And I think a lot of coaches don't have the right advertising strategy, paid advertising strategy, running actual ads on TikTok, on Facebook, Meta, Instagram, etc. YouTube is great for coaches, by the way, because everybody is, it's how to, everybody is going to YouTube, how to. And ChatGPT is great on how to. That is if it's a specific task that can be read. It's like if it's simple instructions, how do I change the settings on my camera to make it a webcam? Literally, ChatGPT that, and then gave me instructions, and here I am. So but if it's something like how to change a tire, something that needs a bit of visual, ChatGPT is going to be able to give you some answers, but you want to see someone do it. You just learn so much quicker if there's images and visuals and video involved. So YouTube is a great platform for coaches, in my opinion, and I think YouTube ads is something that is definitely worth considering. But talking about the framework, whether you're running YouTube ads or Meta ads or TikTok ads, doesn't matter. The framework is what matters. So, do you have the right messaging at the right time? And as a coach, you need to understand nobody's going to just watch an ad of you and all of a sudden buy your course. They need to build a relationship with you. They want to understand who you are. They want to know how you think, how you feel, what is the actual outcome that they're going to experience, the benefits that they're going to experience. And that is done through advertising, and that is done through your sales page. So that's why webinars are so effective, because it does all of this. You're putting yourself out there as a human being, number one, which we just said. You're sharing knowledge and information. You're showing people that you're real because it's live and authentic. Like, you cannot fake a webinar. Like, yes, you can be a different version of yourself, but you still have to be that version. It's not AI that's doing the webinar for you, it's you. So there's level of authenticity that builds trust and credibility. You then obviously sharing information, so people can now go, this guy is competent. That makes you authoritative. And essentially, those are all the boxes that needs to be mentally ticked in their head in order to give you money in exchange for information. So that's why webinars are so powerful, because it warms someone up a lot quicker. Yeah. And a lot of people, outside of the webinar space, you can still run ads to do the exact same job. You can write a sales page to do the exact same job. So 100% a coach has to organically put themselves out there, but you also need a paid acquisition strategy so that you can understand what is your actual cost per lead. And then the last thing I want to say is that most coaches don't have a value ladder. Russell Brunson, it was Dan Kennedy who came up with the method, but Russell Brunson was the one who actually blew up the methodology of a value ladder and what it is. So when we say value ladder, almost every single marketer and business owner understands what we mean. And that is that it's different tiers of the business. When you sell your 500 Rand course, you are not going to make money. We've had so many people come to V8 going, I have a 1,000 Rand course, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to run ads and sell it on autopilot. And the reality is the cost of acquiring a person to buy that course is most likely going to be $300 to $500 to $600. Now you're making $800 or $1,000 back. That total profit is not enough. You're going to have to sell 1,000 of those courses a month in order to make it happen. And they believe that they can just reinvest the profit to do that. But when people don't know who you are, when you don't have credibility or authority, when you're not authentic and people can resonate with you quick enough, then the cost of that purchase will go up because the barrier is just really, really high. So people are going, who is this guy? What is he doing? Like, I don't know. I need to get him a little bit first. And that is why your tripwire or your self-liquidating offer is so important. And on the back of that, when they go through that information, they're going to go, wow, what else does he have? Like, and then you go, oh, I've got this program that's a 12-week intensive deep dive into, this topic that we've been dealing with. And then they go, well, if this is 500 Rand info product is that good, I wonder what the 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000 Rand product is going to be like. And then you've got the end of the value or the top of the value ladder where they're actually paying for your own personal expertise, the one-on-one breakfast with Jono, or the get together or the workshop and stuff like that. So it's really understanding that you need a value ladder as a coach as well. You're not going to get rich off of a 500 Rand or 1,000 Rand online course, in my opinion.
Totally. And what's interesting that I found selling courses was the fact that an outcome has a certain value to a customer. And so one thing that we thought was really weird was we sold a 1,200 Rand course, we sold a 2,950 Rand course, and we sold a 600 Rand course. And then at some point we were advertising to sell a 200 Rand a month subscription. And what we found, okay, the 2,950 Rand course, that wasn't the same. But for everything from 1,200 to 300 to 200 Rand a month had the same cost per acquisition for our customer. So it was almost like if the offer was compelling enough, they were going to take their credit card out. It doesn't make sense. So the cost per acquisition was going to be the same, whether it was a 1,200 or whatever. So it wasn't a percent that we were tracking, more than like a Rand value. And so we realized, okay, we can't sell a 200 Rand a month subscription at a 300 Rand cost per acquisition or 500 Rand cost per acquisition sometimes. But we're nervous of a 1,200 Rand because it's sort of the price is too close to our 2,950 Rand course. But we're very comfortable with 600 Rand because we know we won't lose money on it, and then we'll get the highest possible volume of people through the door. And then just I wanted to add another thing on time, and I mentioned it earlier, where something that is short is actually higher in value. And we actually did a live test of this, Yandre. I don't know if you'll remember, but one of the webinars that we ran, I had this package where we were selling 2 courses they were both 3,000 Rand. So you could get a 6,000 Rand bundle plus 3 months on our app, plus some other course. I can't remember what it was, but the total value of the bundle was like 10 or 12,000 Rand. We were discounting it down to 4,500 Rand as a special deal for the webinar. And one of the slides at the end said, this is 48 weeks of support from Real Meal Revolution on your weight loss journey. And when I wrote that slide, I was like, this is going to blow their minds. They are going to love this. And literally that webinar, we made like no sales. Yeah, because no one who's buying a weight loss program wants to know they're going to be on a diet for like a whole year. That sounds like torture.
48 weeks of hell.
Yeah. And so actually I took those 2 courses, there were 2 6-week courses in that bundle, the 2 3,000 Rand ones. And I actually looked at how much watch time there was of all the content. And it worked out there was only like 4.5 or 5 hours of total video content. And so I bolted that onto another program, which was a slightly complicated model, but basically just said 4.5 hours of prep work. So if you watch all the content from this like 12 weeks of course, you can actually get it down in 4.5 hours. And I promise you, like, guys were buying that like crazy because it was only a 4.5 hour commitment.
Exactly. So, I mean, if you look at Armozi, I mean, he's the OG when it comes to creating offers and value, essentially, right? And his value equation is simple, and I hope I can remember it, but it's really so simple. There's 4 things, right? It is
like,
it's understanding the outcome. Like, what is the outcome that I'm going to get? Okay.
Desirable outcome, yeah.
Yeah. What is the outcome? Number 1. And the time it's going to take to get to the outcome. So the shorter, the better. Then it's a matter of looking at the what was the other two?
Likelihood of success. How likely are you to succeed?
The testimonials and reviews and all that kind of stuff, proving that there's guarantee. And then the last one was the risk removal, knowing that if I don't like it, I can get my money back. So those 4 things, right?
No, it was pain. It was pain to acquire.
Pain to acquire. So the 4 things are we've got desire outcome. Like, what is that exactly? How am I going to look after this 12 weeks? Like, is that really how I want to look? Is it really, is the outcome actually something that I desperately really want? Number 1. Number 2, what is the likelihood of me achieving that goal? Like, is there any guarantees here? Is like other people have tried this? What is the probability of success really if I do follow this program? Has other people tried it and had similar success? The guarantee risk removal side, and then we just said we said 2 different things. I said the time, but it's the same thing, right? Or is it 2 different things?
No, so basically it's desired outcome and likelihood of success divided by time and difficulty, basically. And so if it's difficult and it takes a long time, and he always used the analogy, I think even in his course, he said, look, if you look at a 12-week weight loss program versus bariatric surgery, like time and difficulty, it's really easy. You just go into surgery and then it's quick. Like, it takes a day and whatever.
Yeah.
In fact, I actually had this. So it's very quick. It's guaranteed success, or it's very likely because it always works, and it's so it's very likely to work, and it'll give you a very desirable outcome.
And quick, without a lot of risk.
Yeah, and so I was trying to sell a emotional eating program to this woman in America, and it was a $2,000 program I was going to put her on. And she said to me, how weird is this? She said to me, I'm actually really hard up for cash, and I don't think it's a good idea. And we were in a separate group for screenwriting, which is another story. But anyway, I met in that group a week later, and she announced to us that she was finally going to do it, and she was going to go for a tummy tuck, which is in the States like a $10,000 operation. So in her mind, she couldn't get $2,000 to go on an emotional eating course, which would like heal her relationship with food. Yeah, but she can drop 10 grand on a tummy tuck. Wow.
Interesting. It shows you. And I think actually, wait, I've got a question here. All Homes in South Africa marketing. Marketing agency owners often lose talented staff to overseas companies since the weak rand makes foreign salaries more attractive. What can we do to change this? I don't think you can change it. It is what it is. It's just how you navigate around it, really. I mean, you can't make the rand stronger.
Get
You're not
international clients.
Yeah, you're not going to start a movement that convinces people that working for rands is better. That's for sure. So the reality is, it is what it is. So what do you do? And I think we've had that situation. We've had a few people leave because of international salaries, and that's okay. Like, we pat them on the back and we wish them all the best, and it is what it is. You're not going to stand in the way of that. I always say I don't want to be someone's glass ceiling. Like, I don't want someone to be my glass ceiling, so I don't want to be someone else's glass ceiling. That's really my perspective. I've had people in my life who's always wanted me to win, so therefore I reciprocate by wanting everybody I care about to win as well. And I think I see it as part of the process, but then at the same time I go, what can I do to retain good people? And what we've done is try and focus on culture. Like, I think I call it I don't want to use the word employee because it's such a shitty word, to be honest with you, but for the lack of a better word, colleague, whatever you want to call it, like staff, there's like this triangle that I believe in. And it's something that just, I didn't read this anyway. I don't even know if this is going to make sense to anybody, but it makes sense to me, and it's something I applied. So this is my own perspective. I didn't read it in the book. But ideally, someone wants to be fairly compensated for their efforts. That's the first thing, right? If you can get that done, great. They don't want to pull out their hairs stressing about covering their bills. So the first thing is, can you offer someone a salary that they agree on is fair for the time being, and vice versa? Can you agree that it's fair for the work that they're going to do in exchange? Great. First box ticked. The second box is, are they actually in a position that's going to stimulate them mentally? 99% of people, especially if you're in a high growth business and environment, want to be mentally challenged and stimulated. And if you have staff or people who don't want that, then they're probably the wrong people to hire, unless it's a very redundant role that they're happy to keep doing repetitively every single day of their life. But most people want to learn. Most people want to grow. Most people have an appetite to experience new things. And in the role that you create, you should try your best to structure it in such a way that they will be mentally challenged. And through that challenge, they will start to grow as a human being as well. That brings on a level of fulfillment to that individual. So they're getting fairly compensated, and they're building life skills that will inevitably stack month on month, year on year, that's making them more valuable as a human being. Should they leave your company, go somewhere else, you've played a big part of that, and you can be proud of that. Okay? So that's the first thing, is like, people who are in roles that are just not mentally stimulating at all will most likely have a higher turnover rate, in my opinion. Then the last thing is culture. Are the people that you're going to be spending 8 hours a day with actually people you want to spend time with? And I think that's one thing I've always wanted at V8. I never wanted a corporate business. Now, unfortunately, you do need structure. Otherwise, everybody runs wild, and it's just chaos and noise. So obviously you need structure, but I believe that you can create a culture where everybody has each other's best interest at heart. And I believe that you can hire competent people that you can actually be friends with. And I'm not saying that you have to be besties, but when you do have an event and you do have a beer, at least it's going to be fun hanging out with those people. And if you are in a challenge, in a predicament with that individual, you're facing product quality issues, or it's a business challenges, whatever it may be, at least they teaming up with someone they actually care about and someone they actually get along with. So you need to understand that people spend most of their life working. So ideally, you want to create a culture that people actually are excited to work in and are happy and content to work in, and they feel like you've got their best interest at heart, and there's a level of love and compassion and empathy. Along with that, they need to be fairly compensated, and along with that, they need to be mentally challenged. So those are the three things: finances, mental challenge, and the mental stimulation, and then also the culture. Those are the three things I've always wanted to focus on. And funny enough, if you get those three things right, you'll be surprised. Not everybody is going to chase a higher paycheck, because they are happy because the other two things are so much more valuable than just money. Not every single person is just money driven. I'm not money driven. Like, I'm grateful for what we're building, but it's not about the actual monetary gain sometimes as much as living up to your full potential and just having as much fun as you can. And yes, there needs to be a level of monetary gain and financial gain, but it's understanding that if those two other things, if the mental stimulation and the actual culture sucks, you're going to have to compensate someone financially so much more in order to eat that trouble up every single day of their lives. And that is why bankers are paid so well, because they are in shitty cultures, corporate culture, and sometimes they're not getting mentally stimulated because it's the exact same thing every single day of your life. So in essence, bankers, most of them, have to be compensated a lot more because they have to make up for the other two things that they lack. And if those three things are in balance, I'm not saying every single person is going to stay with you forever, but you'll have a higher likelihood of that majority of people are going to continue wanting to grow with you. And I think the last thing is that you, as the founder of the business, you need to be able to build a business that can actually continue growing so that the people in the company can continue growing. And that is where most of my anxiety comes from. That is where 100% of my anxiety comes from. Is, are we growing quick enough to keep everyone happy? Period. That's it. And that's literally all I have to say on
that. Yeah, I mean, my only comments on that is that, if someone wants to leave to work for an international company, it does sound good, like the money will be appealing. But I have come across many people who end up, when they're remote only, and you're on your own in your office at home, it's not a cool. You can try and emulate culture through remote office space, but it's very difficult. There's no crossing paths at the water cooler. There's no staff drinks. It's really difficult to create true human connection, and that is something that every single human being requires. So if someone is happy to sit on their own in a room and work for an international client, either they will only be able to do that for a short amount of time and then end up looking for work again. That's what I believe. Or they're probably not the kind of person who you want bringing vibe and energy to the company. And then exactly. Everything Andre said was like bang on point.
No, I agree, man. And again, I might be wrong, but that's kind of like my perspective on it. And one thing I believe has worked for us to an extent. I wanna, we said these shows are going to be an hour, but I'm happy to go over if you are, Jono. I think I want to touch on just one or two more things. Do you have a hard stop or anything? Are you happy to do one or two?
No, I got a bit more time. I had 2 more points I wanted to mention actually, but go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think start with, I've got one, but let's start with yours, and then you do one, I do one, and then we can do one last one if there's time.
I guess so. I wanted to take it back on topic, which was the mistakes these under 300k a month entrepreneurs make. And the thing that I have heard so many people say is, I just want to build it up to a point where it runs itself. And you're laughing because you've heard it too.
I thought that was literally, yeah. I mean, it's a lot more nuanced. It's possible, but it's very, 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 very nuanced.
Yeah, and I don't think that entrepreneurs in the beginning, I think that you learn eventually, but there isn't the point at which a business can run itself is so much further away than what most entrepreneurs think, unless you give away equity to a highly, highly competent person. But the idea that you can stay 100% owner and get your business to a point where it runs itself, I think is a myth, because the incentive for someone to treat it like their own business is so hard, and a business does not run unless the people running it treat it like it is their own. Someone has to be bending over backwards for customers. Someone needs to be thinking about the changes in trade and the changes in the economy and the environment to stay relevant. Like, whose idea is it to implement the next system to adapt to new technology? That's the entrepreneur's responsibility. So the idea that a business can run itself, I think, is, even having that idea is the biggest mistake an entrepreneur at that age can have. It's something to aspire to, I think, but It's not going to happen with 300k a month business, I don't think.
Yeah, I think very true. There are obviously nuances around it, like I said earlier. And again, I am a reflection of the fact that it is possible because V8, the media, the agency side, does run itself. And I'm very, like, my involvement there is very little. Maybe an hour or two a week if it's that much. And it's really just consulting work, like just consulting with the executive team. And every now and then maybe there's a fire that someone needs some perspective on how to fix and how to put out. But the biggest reason that was possible is because, and this is a fun fact, I don't own 100% of any of the companies that I'm involved with. I do not own 100% of any of the companies that I'm involved with. And that is strategic. It is because, one, I enjoy empowering people and watching people grow. It just makes me so happy. It really does. Like, it's the most beautiful thing to see, to be in a situation where you can give someone revenue share or profit share, and they just take ownership over it, and essentially shareholding, obviously, as well. So I think in all the businesses that we get involved with, we go, who's going to hit this up? And 99% of the time, it will be another shareholder. And then who's going to make sure that everything gets done on a daily basis? And those people get incentivized on certain KPIs. I think the bigger you get, the more that becomes the actual playbook. The smaller you are, the more you can remain 100% shareholder, but you need to understand that nobody is going to care about your business the way that you do. I was very fortunate enough, and I am probably an anomaly, to have found someone like a Gilbert and a Melissa and a Bia and a TJ and all these people very early on in my journey. However, from day one, they knew that this business was technically not just mine, but also theirs. And when the business started making money, everybody shared in that upside, if that makes sense. I would like to believe there might be people out there who might have a different perspective of me, and that's okay. There's a different version of Yandre living in everybody's head that has met me, obviously. But I would like to believe that I'm not someone who is greedy and who is got an abundant mentality. And I'd like to believe that I would rather have 40 or 60% of a business. But my involvement in that business is following the 20-80 principle, or the 80-20 principle, where I put in 20% of the effort in exchange for that level of equity, but I get back 80% of the upside because of the skills and the knowledge and the leverage that I've built over time. But that's just my perspective on that now, of where I'm speaking from where I am in my journey. But I do believe that getting to 3 million a month, 6 million a month or more, if those businesses don't run itself, because there's more things that have to get done. So this is where shareholding agreements and bringing on actual shareholders, or profit share models, or revenue share models, or key incentivizing and commission models come into play. And then it's a level of ownership that comes with that as well, in exchange for that upside. And I think that's the one thing I've done very early on, and it served us really well. But the mistakes I have made in my 20s was I want 100% of everything, because it was like this ego thing. Do you own 100% of V8? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's like, now I'm like, I don't care. Like, it doesn't freaking matter, because the percentage that you have on paper doesn't matter. Is the business profitable, and how much time are you putting into it to make it profitable? And ideally, you want to live a life of balance. And that's how I looked at it. It's like, life is too short, man. Like, I don't want to hustle 16, 17 hours a day. Like, I want to spend time with my wife and my kids. I want to be able to go for a quick lunch with a colleague to explore other opportunities. I don't want to be fixated on having to be productive for 16 hours a day because I'm trying to do everything myself, and taking that level of responsibility with it. So I believe create the balance in that way, and hopefully you find the right people that would be appreciative of those opportunities and would be excited to grow with you and alongside you as well.
Yeah, 100%.
I've got one. Oh, sorry. You want to finish this the thought on this, or?
No, the run itself thing, I think it's run its course.
Yeah. So the other thing that I see very often, is that business owners, specifically doing between 1 and 3 million a year, they are not if I had to have a conversation with them and say, Joe, tell me something. What is your cost per acquisition like? A lot of these founders won't be able to tell me that. And when I say, listen, what is the profit margin on this product? They're like, yeah, it's roughly between X and I was like, no, what is it? I don't want to know what it roughly is. I was like, I want to know what it is. How much are you reinvesting back into your marketing to scale? What is your levels of profitability on your ads? Like when I ask them these key questions, they don't actually know. And the bottom line is that they actually don't have insight into key data metrics that can indicate levels of scale, whether levels of scale is actually possible. So they stuck at 300K a month. They don't know which levers to pull because they're not measuring anything that can indicate whether the business is actually ready to grow or not. So they do the exact same thing they've always done, expecting more growth. And one thing I've learned the hard way is that whatever you've done last year to get you to this point, you can't expect to do that again this year and double your growth. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's like the law of what is the equals cause and effect. It's the law of cause and effect. Whatever effort you put in, that's the effort you're going to get out. Okay. So whatever you're doing on a daily basis to get you to 300K a month, that is not going to be enough to get you to 600K a month. You're going to have to add certain things to what you've been doing in order to get to double the amount of revenue. And whether that is bringing in a new skill set, hiring a new skill set, whether that is implementing a new strategy, whether that's doubling down on your ad spend, whatever it may be, something's going to have to change if you want your business to change. And I think the only way to make the right change is to do it objectively with data. Let the data tell you what to change. So I feel most of these business owners, they live in a world where they feel their way through growth. I feel we need to do this. I feel we need to do more organic content. I feel we need to send more. I was like that when someone says, I feel we need to, I was like, oh man, like I get a little bit like a, you know, the hairs on my back are like straighten up a little bit. It's like, oh, I'm ready to bounce. It's like, I feel I need to. It's like, bro, that is the most objective way of deciding what to do next. And the bigger your business gets, the more responsibility you have as a business owner to make the right decision. And that boils down to, the right decision boils down to having the right data and making the best conclusion based on the data that you have. And that's what most people don't track. Most people don't track what they need to track, which means they don't have the necessarily data, which means they don't make objective decisions on how to move forward and double down on growth.
I mean, just to add color to that, and one of the things I've noticed you talk about a lot is the feeling you get, and so the data is really, really important, and I think the top layer, but it has to come after the data, not before the data.
Intuition is a real thing. Intuition, 100% real. Don't get me wrong, but there needs to be something that sparks that level of intuition, if that makes sense.
Totally. That's like you can. Like a Federer will only know which shot to play because he's practiced hitting a shot from that side of the court for 20 years. And it's the same thing. That data is really important. Totally agree. There's a really good question from Stephen Jacobs. How can I value my business to offer equity to an investor? I can give this a go, but I know this is your sweet spot, Andre, so maybe you want to kick it off.
I mean, I love the question because that's where my journey is right now, right? My journey is in evaluating companies and looking at what is scalable and trying to buy a business right before it pops and hopefully with the idea to sell it for a higher multiple. I'd say like how you evaluate businesses overseas in America and how you evaluate businesses in South Africa are two different things. So if you had to go onto ChatGPT, this is literally a question you can put into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is going to give you this romantic pie in the sky evaluation. So you're going to be doing 100K a month. And if you had to ask ChatGPT saying, listen, I'm doing 100K a month, what's my business worth? ChatGPT is going to say, let's do a revenue model valuation where we look at your annual revenue, which will be 1.2 million based on 100K a month. And let's assign a 5x multiple to that revenue valuation. And now you've got a 6 million rand business, basically. So you're doing 100K a month. And as a South African business owner, you think your business is worth 6 million, when in fact, it's probably worth less than 1 million. So the reality is, when it comes to business valuation, is that it's subjective based on who you actually trying to sell to, because the value lies in the person who wants to buy it. So the value of the business, yes, there's certain things that you can build in your business to make it valuable, but that will always be subjective to who you're trying to sell to, if that makes sense. And you need to understand that South African businesses don't work on revenue valuation models. Really, it's very seldom that you're going to get a revenue valuation model in South Africa. And the only companies that can get it right are tech companies that are scaling really quickly, or it's companies that have a huge customer base, growing in revenue aggressively, and have an extremely low churn rate. Something like I won't say Showmax, but like something like a Netflix. Technically, it's a tech company, okay, given. However, huge amount of revenue growing, and churn rates low. We can add a revenue multiple to that. But in South Africa, the reality is, and this is now, I've weaved a bit to give you some context, but this is the actual answer, is that the best way to value your company in South Africa is on a profit on earnings model. What that means is, we look at the amount of profit your business has left after a year, and then you assign a multiple to that. Now, a multiple means the amount of years it will take the investor to get their money back. Okay. So if you assign a 4x multiple, it means that if someone invests in your company, they should fairly be able to get their money back within 4 years. That's what the 4x multiple indicates. If you say 5x multiple, it means that in 5 years' time, they will get their money back. Now, the more risk you have in your business, the lower the multiple will be. Why? Because nobody wants to overpay for a company that has a huge amount of risk. Okay? Like, everybody wants to get their money back as quickly as possible. However, the only way you're going to get your money back is if there's no risk, right? So the risk factor and the multiple goes hand in hand. The lower the risk in the business, right, the higher the multiple will be. The higher the risk in the business, the lower the multiple will be. So if you're starting out a business and it's a year or two old, what are the risks? The risks are, you are the only person that can run this business. And if you get hit by a truck tomorrow, you don't exist. High risk. The other risk factor is, you don't have product market fit yet, or to the point where you can justify a really good multiple. So we don't know if this product can actually scale to the moon yet. Risk. You don't have systems and procedures in place. If you had to double your revenue tomorrow, your factory would break, your staff would be overwhelmed. You don't have the systems to scale. What does that mean? Risk. So all these small little things, which we call risk, is obviously subjective, but it's basically anything that will jeopardize the business from being super successful over a period of time, aka a multiple of hypothetically 4, which basically means 4 years. And if you have a business doing 100K a month, making 20K profit, that's 20K profit a month, that becomes 240, close to 250K a year in revenue. The average multiple in South Africa to assign in a business that's less than 2 or 3 years or so is about 3x, maybe 4 if you're lucky. So let's assign a 4x to a 250K profit a year business. That becomes a R1 million business. Okay. So your 100K a month business that's making 20K profit, hypothetically speaking, if no one can actually pinpoint the risk factors that you have, and we are okay with the risk of a business of this maturity, let's assign a 4x multiple to it. You have a R1 million business. So that is one way to evaluate it. And that's how most people or most investors will evaluate a business. We actually going through this process now with a company that we own, that we started in 2023. We have some big players who are keen to come in, and they've given us a 6x. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a 6x multiple. And it was on profit on earnings. It's like, what is the amount of profit that you made last year? Let's put a 6x multiple on that. And now they're doing due diligence to make sure that what we say is actually 100% factually true. And they now looking at whether the risk is worth the squeeze, or the juice is worth the squeeze at the end of the day. Jono.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
No, No. I mean, it's just. I think everyone needed to hear that. The only thing I would have added to that is the if you don't have profit, and a lot of people don't. Some people think that their business has a value, but actually it doesn't. Sometimes you have asset value, and that's the default. So if you don't have, and that's actually the worst possible valuation you can get. Like if
that becomes
yeah. So I've actually got a mate now who's selling his business, who's actually leaving a partnership, and they've had a business together for 10 years or more, but they've never managed to get a retainer contract from a client. They've never really managed to create a sustainable, ongoing revenue stream with any contract. So contracts obviously reduce the risk that you were talking about. So if you've got a 3-year contract, your business has value straight away, and they don't have any of that. And so he is going to sell out to his partner, but the only value that they have is the value of all of their assets. And the assets are mostly technology products that have depreciated rapidly. And so he's going to walk away with pretty much, less than he should have after like 10 or 15 years of business.
I've seen that so many times, man. You know how many times I've seen people build a business for 30 years. At the age of 65, they try and sell it and they get nothing for it.
Yeah.
And you know what happens then? They become a prisoner to their own business because they can't afford to sell the business, because what are they going to do then? It's not going to be enough money to retire. And now they become the slave and prisoner to this business, hoping to make it profitable and more valuable at the age of 65. And that becomes that literally becomes a prison sentence. So there's a book called, I think it's called Build, Scale, Sell.
Oh, yeah. Pablo TDs, yeah.
So Build, Scale, Sell, great book I read before I started via media. Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz, another great book because it teaches you systems in the business, which makes the business more profitable and more valuable. And those two books completely changed my perspective on how to run a business and how to build a business that's actually valuable. I say this, I always say this to someone: build the business as if you are going to sell it, because that is the best way to build a business. So people go, I'm not going to sell my business. That's cool. You don't have to, but build it as if you are going to, because that will be a very successful business if you had to follow all those best practices. And if someone did come along one day and offered you money, it will be a fair valuation. And then you can go, oh, I wasn't ready to sell, but this makes sense. Let's do it. You don't want to get caught off guard. Like sometimes I've seen so many people build businesses and someone comes along who's ready to buy, but it's just doesn't make sense because the valuation is actually not what it's supposed to be because they weren't ready to sell. And then it's just they lose out on a massive opportunity. They could have, there was really just the right time to get out and maybe do the next thing. But unfortunately, they get lowballed because they've got so much risk in their business because they didn't build it the right way.
I think my parting comment, I agree with that 100%. My parting comment, just because I got to run,
Me too.
but I think we've done a solid 90. It's been good. So the last mistake that founders make under the 300k is we discussed this the other day as well. The savior mentality. And I remember like flapping around because revenue was dying, and I had this feeling that each agency I engaged with, or actually anyone, was going to be my savior. And when you're at that stage of business, you're often on the back foot, kind of like hungry for clients and work, and you need some more profit. And it's so easy to fall into victim mindset and see someone who has the potential to turn your business around, and then throw everything you've got at them, and this belief that like, if I just get this one thing in place, everything's gonna come together. It's the most dangerous mindset. And my own personal experience is I had that with a few agencies where, firstly, they didn't manage my expectations properly, which is totally like not their fault. That's just how they were operating. And I had this inflated expectation, and then stopped focusing on stuff because I thought, okay, well, now they're carrying the ball and everything's going to be great. And it happened with a couple of mentors that came into my business. It happened with a few agencies. And because my expectations were so high that this, contractor, client, mentor was going to change the game, I was always bitterly disappointed. but it's very easy to get caught in the thought pattern of like, I'm just waiting for that one big deal, or I'm just waiting for that one thing to come in, and that'll turn it all around. Because the reality is like, if your finances are a mess, it doesn't matter how big the deal is that comes in, you will just have a much bigger mess of your finances. And if you're bad at sales, it doesn't matter if you get that one big deal, you'll still suck at getting the next one.
I literally said to a youngster who has joined the company about a year ago, and he said, like, what is the number one skill set that, he thinks he should be focused on? And I said, every single business owner should obsess over how to acquire clients and customers, because that will make life a lot easier. However, if it's not your forte or skill set, then like you said, you can't have the silver bullet or savior approach where I'm just going to hire someone to take care of this problem for me. Like, you're going to have to take some level of accountability and responsibility as part of the process. And what you said is so true. We have seen so many people come to V8 expecting Hail Mary results. And we've had people on a call say, this is my last chance. This is my last resort. Like, I don't know what else to do. And then we're like, you know what? We actually would rather not take your money because we just don't want that level of responsibility. And I think, that savior mentality is like, nobody's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. And if you bring someone on board to help you, there's still responsibility and accountability that needs to be shared, and making that a reality. That was awesome. Thank you so much for that, my friend. I had such a great time. Yeah, so we're going to do this every Thursday, if you're open to it. And then next time, this will be the Jay and Jono show. And looking forward to it, to you holding me accountable for showing up, and vice versa. And then at the same time, just thanks for all the knowledge and the nuggets and the authentic experiences that you share. I really appreciate that. You are an incredible human being. And just the first day we met, I think there was a mutual energy exchange of, we are on each other's frequency levels, that's for sure. And really appreciate that about you. So, Proudfoot, everybody. There's one answer I want to answer from Ray, but you don't have to be there, Jono. You can leave. She's asked something about a program that we started, which I'll quickly, and you can bounce off. All the best, my friend.
Thanks, Andre. What a pleasure. Looking forward to it. Cheers, man.
Bye.
Bye.
So Ray said, what happened with the mentorship and business course with Neil? So in the beginning of the year, we had a program that we were experimenting with a guy called Neil Milan, who, in my opinion, was one of the first people to really just crush the digital marketing space. What happened there was actually very simple. Actually, I think Neil, and this is at least his words to me, maybe there's a different perspective. But I think the digital space for him is something that he maybe lost a little bit of passion for. And I think he's found a brand new passion, which is mental health and helping people. So he decided to rather embark on that journey, a journey where he can help people suffering with mental health. And a lot of respect for Neil, an amazing human being. And I think we wish each other all the best. At least from my side, there's no animosity. And I don't think there's from his side as well. So Neil, if you're watching, much love to you, and I hope things are going well. But sometimes you do certain things and you realize, well, that's not actually what I want. That's actually not what I'm passionate about anymore. Or that's not for me. There's something else calling my name. There's something else for me out there. And I think that's kind of what happened. And that's normal. That's normal for human beings to go through that. And we played a part in helping him find maybe a bit more of direction of what he wants to do. And that's it. All I can share really on that. And that is really very truthful. I hope you guys had a great time. I'm going to bounce off, and we'll be back next week, Thursday. Please come along for the ride. Hopefully, we will try our best to remain consistent with these check-ins. I really enjoy it so much. It's just showing up through living life as you know how chaotic it can be, right? It can get very chaotic very quickly. And if you don't proactively plan these things, they just don't happen. So this is my promise to you that I am making this a priority. And if you feel it's valuable, then please join me every Thursday. Much love to you guys, and have a great rest of your Thursday and an amazing weekend. Okay. Much love.